You told your children that Charlie was going on a work trip with Jesus. Are they still asking, where's Daddy?
Yes, my daughter continues to ask. I told her the other day, because she said, I just miss Daddy, and where's Daddy? When is he coming home? And I said, baby, Daddy's still with Jesus.
And I talked to her and she said, Mommy, I missed you. I said, I miss you too, baby. She goes, where's Daddy? What do you tell a 3-year-old?
Let's dive into what really happens when the camera you've spent years perfecting suddenly becomes your worst enemy. When that carefully curated spotlight starts illuminating the shadows you desperately wanted to keep hidden. Because what we're witnessing right now isn't just another celebrity scandal or social media controversy. We're watching someone who built an empire on the foundation of family values now standing at the edge of losing the very family she positioned as the cornerstone of her entire brand. Erika Kirk is facing serious trouble. And I'm not talking about the kind of trouble you can sweep under the rug with a well-crafted PR statement or a tearful interview on a friendly platform. This isn't damage control territory anymore. We're talking about Child Protective Services. We're talking about court mandates. We're talking about the very real, very terrifying possibility that her children could be removed from her custody. This isn't internet speculation. This isn't just another Twitter drama that'll blow over in a week. This is state intervention at its most serious level. This is the government stepping in and saying, we need to protect these children.
Why does Erika Kirk keep forgetting that she has children?
What are they going to threaten me with? Going to heaven sooner to be with my husband?
I think you could ask any mother this same question, and every mother is going to express concern about who's going to take care of the kid. Why does Erika Kirk keep forgetting that she has children?
What are they going to threaten me with?
So how exactly did we arrive at this devastating point? The involvement of CPS didn't materialize out of thin air. It wasn't anonymous online accusations or gossip from distant acquaintances. According to detailed reports, it was Erika's own nanny, someone who was inside that home day after day, who made the initial complaint to authorities. Think about what that means for a moment. Someone who was paid to be there, who witnessed the daily reality behind closed doors, felt so disturbed by what she was seeing that she felt morally compelled to pick up the phone and report it. That's not a decision anyone makes lightly, especially when your livelihood depends on that family. And when the investigators actually arrived and began their assessment, what they discovered was reportedly far more concerning than even they had initially anticipated. The language used in reports was particularly chilling. Darker. Not just technical neglect in the strict legal definition, but a situation troubling enough, disturbing enough, that immediate protective action was deemed absolutely necessary. There was no waiting period. No, let's monitor this and see how it develops. The concern was immediate and urgent. Following that initial investigation and review, the court system didn't hesitate or deliberate for weeks. They moved swiftly. They mandated therapy for both children, state-approved, structured therapeutic intervention. And let me be crystal clear about something. This wasn't a gentle suggestion or a recommendation from a concerned social worker. This was a court order. This was legally binding. And now, according to sources close to the case, there's active, serious discussion happening about whether these children should be removed from Erika's care entirely and placed with Charlie's parents, their paternal grandparents, who have reportedly been advocating for the children's well-being for months. People who've been following this situation are now asking the question that should have been asked much earlier. Was this a recent breakdown in parenting? Or has this been happening, escalating, deteriorating for far longer than anyone outside that household ever realized? Because the signs, in retrospect, were there. They were just hidden behind the perfectly filtered Instagram posts and the polished public appearances. Here's what fundamentally changes everything about this situation. The moment CPS and the court system become involved, you completely lose control of your carefully managed narrative. It doesn't matter how many followers you've accumulated. It doesn't matter how polished and pristine your public persona appears to be. It doesn't matter how many influential friends you have or what political connections you've cultivated. The state simply does not care about your image, your brand, or your social media presence. They care about one thing and one thing only: the welfare and safety of children. And suddenly, All that narrative control that Erika Kirk has exercised so meticulously, so strategically over the years, means absolutely nothing. She's no longer being evaluated as an influencer, as a public figure, as a political personality, or as a brand. She's being evaluated as a mother. Specifically, as a mother who has been tasked with parenting two deeply grieving young children after the sudden, unexpected death of their father. And according to multiple people who claim to be close to this situation, serious concerns about how she's been handling that immense responsibility have been quietly circulating in private circles for months. The critical difference now is that those whispered concerns are no longer private. They're public, they're legal, and they're consequential. Let's talk honestly about grief for a moment, because that's truly at the devastating core of all of this. Charlie Kirk passed away unexpectedly, suddenly, leaving behind two very young children who are now trying to process a loss they're developmentally too young to fully comprehend or understand. Publicly, Erika has consistently presented herself as someone who's moving forward with strength and grace, as empowered, as someone who's channeling her pain into purpose and continuing her husband's legacy. She appears put together, styled, professional. But privately, according to sources who claim knowledge of the household situation, her children are emotionally falling apart. We're talking about daily breakdowns, constant heartbreaking questions about where their father went, the kind of raw, unfiltered, overwhelming grief that small children experience when they simply don't yet have the emotional tools or cognitive development to cope with permanent loss. Death is an abstract concept for children that age. And how has Erika reportedly responded to that profound grief? That's where this story becomes truly uncomfortable to discuss. She shared a story recently on her platform, framed as a tender, touching moment of motherhood. Her toddler, just 3 years old, asked her where Daddy was. A question that would break any parent's heart. Erika's response to that devastated child? She told her daughter that Daddy was on a work trip to heaven. She then posted this interaction online, seemingly quite proud of how she'd handled this difficult moment, positioning it as a beautiful, spiritual explanation that a child could understand.
Ugh! Daddy's on a work trip with Jesus so he can afford your blueberry budget. What little kid isn't going to completely internalize that and be like, hey, we don't have to eat any more fruit and like blueberries if that means Daddy can come home? Like, they're immediately going to think that it's their fault for eating too many blueberries and that's why Daddy's dead.
But the public reaction wasn't what she apparently expected or anticipated. People weren't touched. They were horrified. Not because they don't understand the need to use age-appropriate metaphors with young children about death, but because of what that specific metaphor psychologically does to a 3-year-old's developing understanding of absence, loss, and parental responsibility. A work trip is temporary. A work trip is a choice someone makes. A work trip implies that someone will eventually return. And when you tell a child that developmentally young that their father chose to go somewhere, even if that somewhere is heaven, you risk creating a deeply damaging narrative where the child internalizes the belief that she simply wasn't important enough, wasn't loved enough for him to choose to stay. It's confusing at best and emotionally destabilizing at worst. And to many people observing this, it felt less like a genuine moment of difficult parenting and more like content creation. A sad, marketable moment carefully packaged for an audience that frankly didn't need to witness that private grief. The potential long-term psychological impact of framing death in that particular way to someone still developing their fundamental understanding of permanence, loss, and abandonment, that's something child therapists will likely be working through with that little girl for years to come. But here's what makes this entire situation even more deeply troubling. According to multiple independent reports from different sources, Erika isn't actually meaningfully present in her children's daily lives in any substantial, hands-on way. The actual parenting, the real unglamorous, exhausting moment-to-moment work of raising traumatized, grieving children is allegedly being done almost entirely by hired help. Nannies are reportedly functioning as the primary caregivers, the ones managing meals, bedtimes, emotional meltdowns, and the constant questions about Daddy. Erika's role, according to people who claim direct knowledge of the household situation, is more supervisory and managerial than genuinely hands-on and nurturing. And some of those who claim to be close to her have gone even further with their allegations, suggesting something quite damning. That motherhood was never something she genuinely wanted or desired. That the entire role of devoted wife and dedicated mother was always more about the image and brand it created than the actual life and daily reality it required. That it served a very specific strategic purpose while Charlie was alive and lending her credibility. But once he was tragically gone, maintaining that exhausting performance became exponentially harder. And eventually, according to critics, she simply stopped trying to maintain the facade. This isn't entirely new information, by the way. Erika herself has actually stated in past interviews, before Charlie's death, that she never really imagined a future that included traditional marriage or children. Her stated goals were always centered around personal visibility, cultural influence, and social positioning. The version of her life that eventually included a husband and family wasn't part of her original vision or plan. It was an adaptation, perhaps a strategic one that served her ambitions, but an adaptation nonetheless. And now critics are suggesting something harsh but potentially accurate. That what she truly misses isn't the life she had with Charlie and their children together as a family. It's the life she had before them. The freedom, the undivided attention without obligation, the ability to move through the world without the constant weight of caregiving responsibilities and someone else's needs. Let's pull back and zoom out for a moment, because this concerning pattern of behavior isn't actually new with Erika. There's a documented history here that's absolutely worth examining carefully. Years ago, before she was widely known, she was involved with an organization in Romania called Romanian Angels, described as an orphanage initiative that on the surface appeared charitable and humanitarian. But according to people who were familiar with the actual operation on the ground, it functioned far more as an elaborate branding exercise than a genuine child welfare effort. Reports from that period described the orphanage operation as essentially an extended photo opportunity. Cameras were prioritized over care. Appearances were carefully staged. And there were allegations, quite serious ones, about highly questionable practices involving child separation procedures and adoption processes that raised red flags. The focus, according to multiple insiders who later spoke out, was never really on the children themselves, their well-being, their trauma, their needs. It was entirely on how helping those children looked to an outside audience. Apparently, she used to run an orphanage in Romania, and it was a Christian orphanage. And allegedly, a lot of kids went missing. A lot of kids who came into that orphanage went missing with her ties to you-know-who. His ties to you-know-who. A lot of people are speculating that those kids were. If that pattern sounds disturbingly familiar, it absolutely should. Because the consistent pattern of centering children prominently in a public image and brand without actually centering their genuine needs, their emotional well-being, their privacy and private action, that's a clear through line in Erika's history. Marrying Charlie Kirk gave Erika something she absolutely couldn't have built entirely alone. Instant legitimacy. Serious political access. A platform directly tied to someone deeply embedded in conservative political infrastructure and funding networks. The family image, the devoted wife persona, the loving mother aesthetic, it all significantly reinforced that brand. It made her exponentially more marketable, more relatable to a specific audience, more trusted by people who value traditional family structures. But here's the thing. That only works, that only opens those particular doors, as long as the family unit actually exists and functions. And once Charlie suddenly died, the practical utility of that carefully cultivated image shifted dramatically. It no longer opened the same doors or carried the same weight. It no longer served the same strategic function in her career. And according to her harshest critics, once it stopped actively serving her professional goals and ambitions, she stopped pretending it personally mattered to her. So when CPS investigators showed up at her door, they weren't walking into this situation completely blind or uninformed. They were walking into a pattern. Someone with a documented history, however controversial, of using children as image assets and brand builders, now solely responsible for the full-time care of two profoundly grieving young kids. Someone who, by multiple independent accounts, was failing to meet their basic emotional and psychological needs in profound, potentially damaging ways. CPS didn't hesitate once they began their formal investigation. Things moved extremely quickly through the system. That rapid pace alone tells you something significant about what they actually found when they looked closely. Before the state officially got involved, there were apparently multiple warnings from people who cared. Charlie's parents, the children's paternal grandparents, reportedly tried repeatedly to intervene and advocate. They urged Erika to slow down professionally, to step back from public life temporarily, to focus primarily on the kids during this critical grieving period. They reminded her, apparently more than once, that Charlie had left them financially secure. There was no immediate pressing need, no financial emergency requiring her to immediately jump back into demanding public life and career building. They reminded her repeatedly that the children desperately needed stability, consistent presence, and time. She dismissed their concerns entirely. And instead of heeding that family advice, she did the exact opposite. Charlie had left behind a substantial inheritance, reported to be approximately $12 million. According to sources, a significant portion of that considerable inheritance was allegedly spent extremely rapidly in the months following his death. And rather than stepping back from public view to grieve privately and parent intentionally, Erika launched what can only be accurately described as an aggressive media blitz. Constant interviews, speaking engagements at political events, carefully arranged photo opportunities. She was impeccably styled, professionally polished, perpetually camera-ready. The grieving widow persona was strategically deployed across platforms, but it simply didn't land authentically with audiences because people could see directly through the performance. This wasn't someone genuinely in mourning and processing loss. This was someone actively, urgently rebuilding a brand and maintaining relevance. The general public started noticing the inconsistencies. She had viral moments, certainly, but not the kind anyone actually wants. She was photographed in situations and contexts that raised serious eyebrows. Positioned too close to other people's spouses at events. Too performative in political spaces. She leaned extremely hard into a public persona that seemed completely disconnected from the private reality her young children were living daily. And according to reports that have since emerged, those children were apparently telling multiple people, including therapists and family members, that they actively wanted to live with their grandparents instead. Before I close, I'll share with you that I asked our daughter what she would like to say to Daddy for his birthday. Charlie's parents were willing and ready. They were prepared to take the kids into their home, to provide stability and consistent care. But Erika had entirely different plans. Shortly after Charlie's death, she publicly positioned herself as the CEO of Turning Point USA, stepping directly into the prominent leadership role that had been her husband's. To the grandparents watching this unfold, this looked like avoidance, like someone running from the overwhelming responsibility of single parenthood by hiding behind the convenient appearance of honoring a legacy and continuing important work. Charlie had been, by all accounts, a present, involved, available father. The role Erika was supposed to fill after his tragic death wasn't CEO of a political organization. It was mom. Present, nurturing, consistent mom. And that's precisely the role her critics argue she keeps repeatedly failing to show up for. For a long time, Erika seemingly operated as if normal consequences simply didn't apply to her, as if the rules that governed everyone else's behavior could be negotiated, bent, or ignored entirely when inconvenient. But this particular situation has moved far beyond the realm of public opinion, social media criticism, or political controversy. This isn't about bad press coverage or unflattering articles. This is about the state formally stepping in with legal authority to protect vulnerable children. Court-ordered therapy is something that, frankly, should have been put in place immediately after such a traumatic loss. It wasn't. Erika only complied once the state forced her hand with legal orders. That delay alone, that resistance, speaks volumes about priorities. And now, the support system she once enjoyed is visibly crumbling. People who defended her in the past, who gave her the benefit of the doubt, are quietly walking away. Because parenting, how you actually treat your children, especially during crisis and trauma, is a line many people absolutely will not cross. The public conversation has fundamentally shifted from whether she's an effective public figure to whether she's actually a safe, capable parent. And once that question is formally on the table, credibility across every single board comes into serious question. People are now openly wondering and debating if her career can possibly survive this. If the investigation concludes poorly, if custody is lost, what's actually left of her brand and platform? There's growing speculation about how this entire legal process actually started. Some reports suggest it was ultimately Charlie's parents who contacted CPS after months of watching helplessly. That after watching their grandchildren suffer emotionally while Erika traveled constantly and performed publicly, after their repeated warnings were dismissed and ignored, they saw absolutely no other option. That calling the state was the last possible tool they had available to protect those kids from potential long-term psychological harm.